Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be learning something new related to exponents. Okay. As we can see here on the board, it says 14 to the power of 2. What does this power 2 in the above question tells us? What information do we get? And does this power 2 mean something? These are the three questions I put up on the board. The power 2 tells us that the number 14 has to be multiplied to itself how many times? 2 times. That's what the real meaning of exponents means. That the power tells us how many times the base should be multiplied. So here we are multiplying 14 how many times? 2 times. So when a number is multiplied 2 times to itself, or if a number is having a power 2, then we say we are squaring it. The special name for that is we say we are squaring it. Okay. So a number multiplied to itself means the power is 2 means you are squaring it. Okay. So let's take few examples here. 3 square. That means I should say 3 multiplied to itself 3, which is a 9. So can we say 3 square? When 3 is squared, the answer is 9. Let's say 10 to the power of 2. We'll not say 10 to the power of 2, we'll say 10 square. So 10 times 10 will be 100. So can we say 10 squared is 100? Okay. As I already taken 14 squared, so 14 times 14 is 196. So can we say 14 squared is 196? Yes, you can check by multiplication, it's 196. 0.1 square means you multiply 0.1 with itself. There are 2 decimal places. So the 0.1 square will have 2 decimals. Okay, that's 1 plus 1, that is 2. So 0.1 squared, the answer is 0.01. It's really weird to say like 3 squared, 4 squared, 14 squared and 0.1 squared, right? So we have a special name for that and we call it as perfect square. So a number when multiplied to itself, the product which is so obtained is called as the square of that number. So if I say 5 is multiplied to itself, so the answer is 25. Then 25 is called as the perfect square. If you want to see the smallest, let's say 1 multiplied by 1 is equals to 1. So 1 is a perfect square. So what is the definition of perfect square? A number when multiplied to itself, the product which is obtained is called as the square of that number and it is called as the perfect square. Hope this much is clear. The definition of perfect square means you are multiplying the number to itself and the answer that you are getting, the answer is called as the perfect square. Okay. Now we are going to go with some more examples of perfect square. So again, I have written the definition of perfect square. A number is said to be a perfect square if it is a square of some natural number. Okay, that means you select any natural number, you square it. Means you multiply the number to itself. The answer that you get is a perfect square. So let's quickly write down 2 square means 2 into 2, which is 4. 5 square is 5 into 5, which is 25. 7 square is 7 into 7, which is 49. So here 4, 25 and 49, they are called as the perfect square. Hope the definition of perfect square is clear. Okay. The answer that you get after squaring a number is called as the perfect square. Okay. Now we are going to look into some properties of a perfect square. The first property, a number having 2, 3, 7 or 8. Before we go into this, let's look into the squares from 1 to 20. Sorry, 1 to 30 to be more precise and some extra squares. Okay, then I'll come back to the properties. Okay, so here are the list of all the squares from 1 to 30 and some special numbers which is 35, 40, 45 and 50. It will be better if you remember these squares, like 1 square is 1, 2 square is 2, 3 square is 9, 4 square is 16, 4 fours are 5 5s are 25, 6 6 are 36, 7 7s are 49. So similarly, the others are given like 14 14s are, you can see 196, 15s are is 225, 16 16s are is 256. Okay, clear? Now, there are some properties that I'm going to share with you, or I'm going to list out based on the squares of the number, which I already showed. So we'll go back to that. Okay. So a number having the units place or the last digit of a number, if it is 2, 3, 7, or 8, then it is never a perfect square. Means a square number should never end with digits 2, 3, 7, and 8. Let's have some examples of perfect squares and then let's check whether the digits are 2, 3, 7, or 8. Okay, so suppose if I say 12 square, it's 144. 10 square, it's 100. 6 square is 6 6 are 36, right? 8 square is 64. 9 square is 81, right? 7 square is 49. So are we get the last digit here is 4, this is 0, this is 6, right? So in that case, what the property is saying that if the perfect square, if I'm giving you a number and telling you check whether it is a perfect square or not. So first thing that you will do is you will check the last digit. Means suppose if I give you an example, say I'm taking 4, 3, 5, 2, 8. And second, if I'm taking 4, 1, 9, 0, 2. Now to look at this last digit, if the last digit is 8, 2, or it is a 3 or a 7, like if I take two more examples here, like 1573 or maybe a 1147. So if the last digit is 8, 2, 3, or 7, then such numbers are not a perfect square. Okay, this is the first rule to identify without doing anything, just looking at the number and saying whether it is a perfect square or not. So a number with 2, 3, 7, 8 as its units place is never a perfect square. Okay. The number of zeros at the end of the perfect square is always even. Let's check. 10 square means 10 multiplied by 10. It's going to be 100. 100 square. So basically multiplication of 10, 100 and thousands to itself is very easy. You just add up these numbers and place it. So how many zeros? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then 1000 square. How many zeros in total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So can you see the perfect square will have even number of zeros. So if there is any number with odd number of zeros, then it is not a perfect square. That means I can say 1000 or 1 lakh. They have 1000 as 3 zeros and 1 lakh have 5 zeros. Means odd number of zeros. So odd number of zeros tells us that the number, is not perfect square. Am I clear? Okay. Let's take the next property. Square of even number is always even and square of an odd number is always odd. It's a perfect example. Let's take 2 square is 4, 4 square is 16, 12 square is 144 and 16 square is 256. You have to remember the table which I showed you. Okay, you have to. 3 square is 9, 7 square is 49, 11 square is 121, 15 square is 255. So you can look at these numbers 4, 16, 144, 256. These are even numbers. So the perfect square is even number when the number itself is a even. Square. Okay. Here 3, 7, 11, 15 are odd numbers. The square of these odd numbers are also odd, like 9, 49, 121, and 255. Okay. So three rules that we saw here. If the last digit is 2, 3, 7 or 8, any one of these numbers, then it is not a perfect square. The perfect square should always have even number of zeros. Odd number of zeros means it's not a perfect square. Square of even number is always even. Square of an odd number is always a odd. Okay, next. Square number ends with digit 1. So, those numbers whose units place is 1 or 9. Again, those numbers whom we are squaring. If they have 1 and 9 at their units place, then the square number, perfect square number, will always have 1 at its units place. So 1 square is 1 times 1, which is 1. 9 square is 9 times 9, which is 81. 11 square is 11 times 11, which is 121. 19 square is 19 times 19, which is 361. So if you look at the answers, the perfect square 1, 81, 121, 361 is the last digit or the digit of the perfect square at the end is 1, right? So 1 and 9, when you square any number, the number ends with 1 and 9, then the perfect square will always have 1 at its nth digit. Okay, next. The square number ends with 4. So if you're taking a number, say 2 or 8, or the units place of that number is 2 and 8, then the square number, the perfect square number, will have 4 as its last digit. Let's see here. 2 times 2 is 4. 8 times 8 is 64. 12 times 12 is 144, sorry. And 18 times 18 is 324. So can you see here, if the units place for this number which you are squaring is 2 or 8. Okay, if the units place for the number that we are squaring is 2 or 8, then the perfect square will always end with the digit 4. Okay, hope this is clear. Next, a square number ends with digit 9. Okay, so if a number which we are selecting, which we want to square it, and that number ends with digit 3, 7, 3 or 7, then this perfect square will end with number 9. Okay, so 3 square means 3 times 3, which is a 9. 7 square is 7 times 7, which is a 49. 13 square is 13 times 13, which is a 169. And 17 square is 17 times 17, which is 289. So can you see the perfect square ends with digit 9? So any number whose last digit or the end digit is 3 and 7, 3 or 7, and you're squaring it, then the answer, that is the perfect square, will have the last digit as 9. Okay, next, square number ends with digit 4. So if the number that we're selecting and we are going to square it, and if that number ends with 4 or 6, then the perfect square will have digit 6 at its last place or units place. Okay, so here it will be 4 times 4 is equals to 16. 6 times 6 is equals to 36. 14 times 14 is equals to 196. 16 times 16, 16 is equals to 256. So can you see the last digit of the perfect square is 6? So what is the rule? A number that you selected, if the last units place is 4 or 6, then the perfect square will always end with digit 6. Okay? A square number ending with 5 will always have 5. Means any number with last digit is 5. And when you square it, the square number is also, the perfect square will also have 5 as its last digit. So 5 into 5 is 25. 15 into 15 is 225. 25 into 25 is 625. So can you see 15, 25, 5, 15 and 25. These three numbers end with digit 5. Their perfect squares also end with digit 5. Am I clear? Next. A square number ends with 0. So if I'm taking 10, 20 or 30. So my number is ending with 0. When I'm squaring it, let's see what's the answer. When I'm squaring it, this perfect square will also end with 0. Sorry. So can you see here, 10 square is having a last digit as 0, 20 square the last digit is 0, and 30 square the last digit is 0. So if the number whose square we are going to find, if it ends with 0, then its answer, that is a perfect square, will also end with 0.